Meredith Davis is the founder of the Austin, Texas chapter of the Society of Children's Books Writers and Illustrators. She holds an MFA in writing for children and young adults, and The Minor Miracle is her second book and her first novel. Noah Minor miraculously survives a 16-story fall as a baby, but at age 12 learns that he has the power to manipulate gravity and is recruited to train with Gravitas. It's a top-secret government agency. However, his great-uncle Saul is on the agency's most wanted list, and he may also be the only person who can help Noah reach his full potential. There is so much in this book. Meredith, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. And I love hearing you talk about the book. It's so exciting.
Well, it's exciting for me too, because, and I've said this on my show before, but as a middle grade reader myself, I was not a big reader, but these types of mystery action adventure books, these were the only books that I actually was drawn to. In fact, even becoming an adult, it was really the only types of fiction books I could read. There's never enough in this genre. So why did you choose to include, let's say, like the supernatural in this story, this type of story?
That's a great question. I feel like there is supernatural around us all the time, and we don't necessarily see it. But with The Minor Miracle, one of the things I really wanted to do was give a sense of anticipation. Like, we should be walking around and noticing these amazing things that could be happening right around the corner. So while in this book, the kid has the ability to manipulate gravity, the way it's discovered is through like an eye test that any kid could be discovered. Like, all of a sudden you find out you also have the ability to manipulate gravity. Like, you just never know what a day is going to bring. You never know what you're capable of doing. And so I loved the idea of bringing in the supernatural, the imagination that involves. Like, oh, if you can manipulate gravity, what does that mean you can do? And I also mesh in some science. So I give the power some rules, and it is kind of based on gravity and on gravitons, which you can look up, and they're real things. So they sound like a superhero thing, but it's actually a real thing.
Wow. I mean, we were talking before off air that you were just recently at this like big book, essentially a fair. I mean, a gathering of writers and teachers, and that there's just so many books out there. There's always a book for everything. There's never like too many. So for you, as someone who's pretty new to writing books, but you've reviewed a lot, did you have to do a lot of research where you're like, okay, I know science, supernatural, this is something I want to do. I'm not really that familiar with it, but I need to know more. Like, let's put this in. Like, what was your main reason for putting that in, basically?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because my first book was narrative nonfiction, and this book is fiction. And yet, even with fiction, you do a lot of research to just make it believable. So some of it I drew on from like childhood experiences and things. But when you ask like, why did you want to include something that had science? I think, again, it comes back to the idea that like, the science is incredible. There's so many interesting things to learn. And if you can weave that into fiction, to me, it just gives us a sense of possibility. Like, you never know what you don't know, and you never know what's going on out there. And so, I researched supermoons, I researched gravity, because I hope that kids would be curious, kind of awaken that curiosity and wonder, like, what's real, what's not real? Well, I'm going to go find out. Yeah. And there's so many ways to find out. And so I think even with fiction, it's fun to bring in some of that, those true things to just like get kids curious.
Yeah. And I love that you've said that it's a springboard for the imagination, really.
Mm-hmm,
and I think as adults, we need to remember that too. So what would you say to the kids reading this who might feel ordinary? What's sort of the message for them?
I love that question. It's like the main theme of this book is that we all have superpowers. And so I feel like there are points when people that you look at that you think are extraordinary are also feeling ordinary. So I think it's one thing to recognize that, hey, all of us feel that way sometimes. There's always going to be someone, if you're comparing, you're always going to find someone that's doing something cooler than you. But instead, look at what is actually happening around you that is amazing and extraordinary. And it can be as small as, I love to tell kids, a smile is a superpower. And you never know the power of a smile, and you may never even see the effects that it had throughout someone's day. There's just a domino effect. And so like, I really started noticing that when I talked to kids with my first book, Her Own 2 Feet, because it started off with this girl smiling, which just steamrolled and dominoed into this girl ending up, she had club feet. She came to America. She had surgeries, like a just crazy story started with a smile. And so it can be as simple as something small, an act of kindness. I think that people can be, there's a myriad ways. Sacrifice, friendship is a huge superpower. Being a friend, sticking up for your friend, reaching out to someone who feels like they're alone, those are all superpowers. And so we shouldn't constantly compare ourselves and look out and think, oh, they're doing something better than me. Look at what you can do.
And that friendship thing is actually a really big one in this book. Being a good friend is such a power. Yeah. How can, what do you want to say to this? Because this middle grade, I think this is in the halls of schools. This is such a big one. What's that message you want to share?
A message to kids that are in the halls of schools. I mean, first of all, I remember there are some things that are so hard, and there is bullying, and there is this competition type atmosphere. And so I think that, again, if you can just get kids to recognize their own worth, and I think that's a hard thing to do. I think that drawing on your friendships and valuing those friends and being brave and bold and stepping out and supporting those friends can be a really important thing. I think that there's a little bit of play, because we've got characters in this book that have superpowers, and that they can manipulate gravity, which really is, if you're talking about superheroes in comics, something that we don't get to see. Yeah. But then you've got this other character that plays the trumpet, and he's able to make people laugh. And Noah, the main character, even looks at his friend Rodney and says, hey, that's a middle school superpower. If you can make everybody laugh, that's a superpower. And so I think that my message to kids is, you're walking around a bunch of superheroes. You're one of them. You're walking around with them as well. And so I would love to see kids reaching out and in a positive way, identifying and encouraging and supporting people around them and pointing out to them, hey, you're the superpower. Look what you can do. That's amazing. Yeah. That was amazing. I can't believe you just did that. And so lifting others up, I think it can lift yourself up as well. It's another way to recognize, hey, I need to stop comparing. I need to just and we talked about this a moment before we got on recording, how the children's writing community is like that. I have been so encouraged and supported by illustrators and writers in the Austin area and abroad and far beyond. I love to pay it forward, but I love to see how I just heard a panel yesterday, and it was everybody was going around and talking about their book, but they were also springboarding on hey, that's amazing. Thank you for what you just said, before they started talking about their own stuff. So it's a great community. Yeah.
Okay. There's a lot of questions of what if. It's a big theme on Noah's journey. What kind of questions do you hope readers will ask themselves while they're reading?
Okay. So what if tomorrow I wake up, what if today something happens that changes my life? So going through, there's a point in the book where Noah finds out that he has superpowers, and it happens through an eye chart. And so it's this eye chart could identify if you have the power to manipulate gravity. Well, he didn't wake up that morning thinking that his life was going to change. And I don't think we do that all the time. And so waking up, anticipating what's going to happen in this day, I think is a great way to go through life, and if it didn't happen today, it could happen tomorrow. What's going to be happening in my life that's going to move me and shape me. I think that's a great what if. What if it's today? What if today I get for an author, what if today I get the call and someone offers me a contract on my book? For a kid, it's what if today I meet the friend that's going to be my lifelong friend, and I'm going to know him when I'm 80 years old? What if today I write a paper and a teacher identifies it and I get a grade that steers me to the university I'm going to go to? You just never know.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. I mean, there's so many great takeaways in the book. I mean, even just the sheer fact that he's good at one thing in sports and not as good at school. And it's just kind of recognizing your strengths. And there's a great line, and it's kind of reinforced what we've already talked about. But Uncle Saul tells Noah, he says, the things that make you different, even make you suffer, can be your greatest strengths. I mean, there's some great lines in there. And I wish we had more time to talk about it. But what I want to do is actually tease your next book, because I want people to know that there's a series. Again, as a middle grade reader myself, I needed books like this. And the more there are that can keep me going, I think especially parents, they're I want the next one too. So the first one just came out. The second one, we probably have to wait till next year, but give us a little tease on what the main theme's going to be.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the theme of this one is that we all have superpowers. And honestly, I'll tell you what, when a writer starts writing, they often don't figure out what their theme is until after they're finished. And this book is still in editing. But I'll tell you this, it takes place, a lot of the time of it takes place in New York. And in this scene, in this book, they're going to be trying to catch the bad guy. There's going to be a new bad guy. There's a lot of surprises. And once again, he's going to discover that his friends are his superpower. They're going to be there for each other.
So good. So good. We need that. We need that reminder. The Minor Miracle, Meredith Davis, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.